Taletso e tla ile ka botšiša gore na le nyaka ke bolela ka eng ba re ke bolele ka cancer ke be ke bolele ka HIV. That was the brief. Jwale ka lebelela ka re o ka re taletso ye e tšwa go CWL. Therefore, era gore ke tshwantse ke sekamele ka mo saeteng ya bomme. A o balo? O ka re ke taba ya CWL. Banna ba gešo ba CMM ba tseba gore na e bang nyaka ba tla nkhwetša kae. Motho a ba nyaka ba tla mpitša. Ke bolele le botate. Nako ye re e filweng a e kalo, therefore we can't cover a huge ground. Ke bone thero ya moruti ka mokgwa e tsamaileng ka gona. It was interactive. O ba le engage as he was preaching. I would prefer that kind of situation where re ntse re bolela no jalo e se ka kwetša ke lešia o tsamaile le lena moruti a ya le lena go fitlhela thero e fela. It was interactive. A didactic type of speak mo e leng gore bolela ba bangwe ba diputšo tša ba di lebala mafelelong. They have not been addressed. Jwale ge ke thoma ke tla re the World Health Organization, WHO, ge ba define health ba re it is not just the absence of disease or infirmity. It is rather the presence of both mental, spiritual, and physical health. Mental, spiritual, and physical health. We are addressing spiritual health. So that one I'm not going to talk about. Then we shall come mental and physical health. Mental health in brief, we all go through that. And currently, more than one COVID, Baba we all go through mental problems at any stage of our lives. But the response to this is determining how you cope or you don't cope. They will have the problem and they have coping mechanisms. What is important with mental health? Asugore go ulwala utshwere ke tsa monagano wa gafa. Asugore go utshwere ke tsa ka go tlhogo wa gafa ka gore o khwetsa nako nngwe ge re le mošomong after listening to what the person is saying ra re no re go romela go psychologist a re mole gore ke ya gafa no a ubala re wa gafa o na le bothata bo go nyakang psychologist rather than tablets. Because indeed we have a whole spectrum. Yamalweji ao. Una le tšatši le o tsoga mo no kry-a moya wa gago le fase. O sa tsebe gore nake ka baka la eng ke feel the way I feel. Moya o no ba fase. Tšatši le lengwe o tsoga o eta go dumediša le batho ba o sa ba tsebeng o ya ko o yang gona. Ka mokgwa moya o tla bang o le godimo ka gona. These are the different spectrums tša what we call a bipolar. Bipolar, you are in what they call a depressive state. When the mood is very high, you are in a euphoric state. You know, bipolar, and in the spectrum. Some of them it will be very mild, others will be very, very, very. Well, no, this is now disruptive. It disrupts your way of life. The way if your mental health is then in attention. mara go no runya mile ma motla anyane, that's normal. Go sa tsa wa tsoga o thabile ebile o epela di fela, le yona is normal. That is mental health. Then there is depression. Depression ke bolwetse bo e leng gore we misunderstand it, and to a point mo e leng gore batho ba feletša ba dira tše di re makatšang. For example, Maluleke shu re bolela le yena ka mehla, re šera le yena, mara ge re tsoga ra kwa ba re Maluleke o bolaile ditsuana tša gage, a feleletša a te polaya, killed everyone along the way, and he killed himself. We miss that this person is actually depressed. Una le bothata, mara re phela le yena, we are not able to pick that up. Depression is real, and depression is a problem and common in our communities. We need to identify motho wa ka ba gana le depression. What are the symptoms of depression, for example? Motho wa leng depressed ke motho e leng gore o no thoma go sarata lo ja ba di rata. You lose interest in what they call pastimes. Motho o be re tseba e le motho wa go ithatela mmino, matšatšia ai mmino a o sa ya felo le ona. Motho o e le motho a etela batho, a sa eta matšatšia. Motho o happy, o tshaba ge a le tee. He wants his own space. A nyaka go ba le batho. And motho o go na le dilwana tše dinnyane tše e leng gore di no mo upset. You know, you joke with this person. Under normal circumstances, this person would laugh. But today, uno joke le yena, wa kry le gore o ka re o gatile raw nerve. These are some of the symptoms of depression. Le dijo ga o sa ja gabotse, goba o thoma go ja ka mokgwa e seng a healthy way of eating. You eat in an abnormal way. Wa feleletša o gain weight and so on and so forth. That would be some of the symptoms of depression. Of course, then there is schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, they are now, they've got a number of symptoms, some of which will be violent. That's why they tie that person down. But some of the symptoms, schizophrenia, for example, would be, among other things, what we call delusions of grandeur, right? Jesus Christ. And I follow him. This person is deluded. And Christ. There is delusions there. Then hallucinations. Who hallucinate? You know, and it could be voices or vision. You are having this hallucination, visual hallucination. And then you also lack insight into your own problem. The good example I can give you about lack of insight. Is an alcoholic. Everybody can see or you are an alcoholic. You don't see it as a problem when everybody else can see that you have a problem. And because you do not see that you have a problem, you will not seek help. Those are some of the symptoms of schizophrenia. Then they become violent. They break things. And they can be a danger to themselves, in addition to being a danger to other people. Okay, some of the symptoms are schizophrenia. And then, of course, what we call somatization or psychosomatic problems. Psychosomatic problems, in simple terms. Some of you will remember the advert ya Cremora. There is no Cremora in the refrigerator. And then the woman said, it's not inside, but on top. Kukuri, wena o nagana gore wa lwala. Mara ka botsebotse a gona selo mo mmeleng wa gago. Bothata bo ka mo. It's a psychological problem. Not inside, but on top. This is somatization. And so on and so forth. There are many, many other problems. In my line of work, what we see commonly would be what we call postpartum depression. Postpartum depression is and as soon as I will overlay this depression, you know, so this woman is depressed. It's fairly common as well, and it needs attention. And we may even have to take the neonate away from the mother. Those would be some of the, in brief, those would be some of the issues to mental health. So health is not the absence of disease or infirmity, but the presence of mental, physical, and spiritual health. Then you are healthy. Now let's come to the physical aspect of health in reference to what I was briefed on. HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, in 1985, that time in HTLV3, human T lymphocyte virus, at the time. I remember very well in the microbiology lecture, this disease affects male homosexuals. That was the introduction. Yes, male homosexual. Very homosexual in our community. We didn't think we had such. We thought, no. That was in 1985. By 1988, we now saw a huge upsurge in heterosexual people. And then we started seeing who affect homosexual males, where the shivu who affect everyone. And we were starting to see a lot of cases coming in. You see, behavior in COVID, we saw that even with HIV. The stigma, the misunderstanding, HIV. We were level from his distance, astronauts. You know, we would not touch that person. We were completely terrified. And then, of course, as you remember, when the ARVs were introduced, we were going to group ring. These are poisonous. They are meant to kill our people. You mustn't drink them. We will remember very well the then Minister of Health, together with the President, advocate and we lost a lot of people around that time because of this kind of approach. And today, as we speak, because now the country had taken a position now where everyone who's positive, regardless of the CD4 count, regardless of the viral load, they must be put on ARVs for life. Previously, the guideline was only positive. At a certain level, you don't need treatment. We will wait until you get to here. Now, the approach, that might be too late. To wait for the viral load to skyrocket and the CD4 count to go down, trauma treatment at that stage, that's late. So currently, you will have noticed, we no longer bury people who are HIV positive. Those who die from HIV now are those who are still denialists. HIV has become a controlled disease. You can live with it. You can raise your children and still manage to see them grow in Leona. But let's go back slightly. For now, HIV it's an alwa but the most three common ways HIV, sexual transmission. That is the commonest. Now, this sexual transmission, as it was introduced in the 80s, it's already homosexuals. We now know that it can also happen in heterosexuals. However, the interesting thing, the Western countries, the original issue, much more common in homosexuals than we see this side. So if you go to America or England and so on, the majority of the people who are positive are still the homosexual or the gay community. More than that. That is the original way it appeared, and it has continued that way. In Africa, it is not even the gay people that are on the receiving end. It is you and I. Well, I'm assuming that there are not gay people here, but I might be speaking under correction. But that is the sexual transmission, commonest method. The second one is mother-to-child transmission. When you are pregnant and you are HIV positive, you are likely to give that virus to your baby. The good news, though, is that with the current intervention, as we speak, and this is true for both the private and the public sector, the introduction of ARVs has completely eliminated mother-to-child transmission, which is a good thing. But that is the second method of transmission. The third method of transmission is blood transfusion. If you get blood, you can get HIV. However, that also is such a rare event, such that we also no longer see people who get infected because of This is because the blood is tested and retested before it can be made available for blood transfusion. And the tests that are done are so sensitive, such that it is very unlikely that there will be that odd unit that escapes the scrutiny. Therefore, we no longer see people getting HIV from blood. But in the way we don't talk of something being impossible. We will always say, if you kissed someone who's positive, you can get HIV from that. And then people, experts would say, for you to get HIV from kissing, you must have ingested at least 2 liters of saliva from that person. 2 liters, which, as you know, is not possible. Or you can get the 2 liters of saliva from kissing. Right? Others believe if you shed utensils, positive, you can get that. We know that the virus cannot survive outside the body. All right? Once it's outside the body, it dies. So you cannot get it from using a spoon or a cup that someone who's positive is using. It does not happen. So we can relax as far as that is concerned. You can't get it from hugging someone. On Thursday, when I was at the radio station, there was a question asked that, is it possible to get a sexually transmitted infection without having had sex? Well, at the radio station, we offer a disclaimer already. this is not for people younger than a certain age. I see there are children there, unfortunately. The two are mutually exclusive. You cannot get an STI unless you've had intercourse. You can't get it. And this notion, you can get infected by using a public toilet. You go to a public toilet, you can get an STI there. That does not happen. For the same reason that I've mentioned, that the virus cannot survive outside the body. You need to sleep with someone for you to get the infection. Right. What we know about the virus, once it's in Momoto, when it gets in, the amount of virus will soon go up in your blood. The symptom, your infection, is similar to an ordinary flu, just an ordinary flu. Then the symptoms will go away, and yet the virus is still there. Then it starts to multiply. Now, what happens is that as soon as you are infected, your body starts to mount resistance against the infection. It fights the virus, and for a while, your body will win the war. It will suppress the virus, but the virus keeps on multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. It uses your own cells to produce its own offspring. Ultimately, it overwhelms your immune system, then you start to get sick. From the time of infection to the time of being ill, takes about 10 to 15 years. Right? So, ge motho a lwala, ke motho e leng gore ke kgale a na le infection as a test. So you cannot get the infection today and next week you are sick. No, it takes time. And this then gives us the window of opportunity to do what needs to be done to suppress the virus. So this is why it is now a controllable disease. Now, when you start getting sick, so we are talking about being HIV positive and getting AIDS. AIDS is when now you are now getting the syndrome, you are sick. There are a number of things that will happen. 1, excessive weight loss. 2, diarrhea, chronic diarrhea that you cannot control. 3, TB. These are opportunistic infections. You can also get pneumococcal meningitis. Only a particular cancer that you get, sarcoma. It's and then lymphoma as well. It's a tumor or a cancer of the lymph nodes, and so on and so forth. Then you are now sick, only AIDS. So we need to make that distinction between being HIV positive and having AIDS. So, and this is what we used to see a couple of years ago. Nowadays, AIDS is very rare, and yet many people still do have the virus. But never introduce some over COVID kudu HIV is one of the diseases that so when you are HIV positive, I've already said for now what is done. What do we do? Everybody's put on medication, regardless of the level of the virus in your body. And the ARVs that are available now are so effective that they are able to suppress the virus completely. By that we mean, laboratory, our virus not detected. All right? But it does not mean you are negative. All they are saying is that the virus is no longer able, and then your immune system starts to recover. The CD4 count starts to go up. It falls within the normal range, and yet you are positive. And this is what we want to achieve now. And we're achieving that on a daily basis. So that is the good news with HIV. A few other issues that I needed to, maybe two issues. One, discordant seroconversion. Discordant seroconversion, some people don't understand it. in a couple, omngale positive, omngale negative. The question is that possible? For Nangava positive, my wife aba negative, or the other way around? The answer is yes. You can be. How is that? The commonest scenario is when the woman is the one who's positive and the man is negative. This is because for this virus. The man is exposed during the sexual act only. As soon as you finish, the exposure is gone. The woman, on the other hand, gets exposed for the next 72 hours because the semen gets into her system. If this virus is on those sperms, the sperms have got enough time to swim around. They are even in the abdominal cavity, and in the abdominal cavity, the lining, what we call the peritoneum, is much more absorptive to the virus. So virus for the next, even if the sexual act lasted for 3 minutes, which by the way is the average duration, 3 minutes, she gets exposed for the next 72 hours. So, therefore, it is possible that when you meet as a couple, the woman is positive and you are negative. This situation can remain the same for many, many, many years. And we see that most of the time. You test the couple, the man is negative, the woman is positive, and they continue to reproduce, they have children, and the situation remains that way. But the other way around is not so common. In other words, once the man is positive, it is very unlikely that the woman will remain negative. She will get infected if they don't use protection. The other point I wanted to raise here, the issue of circumcision. It has been found, research-wise, that a man who is circumcised, whilst we know that transmission from woman to man is inefficient, if this man is circumcised, he is even at a lesser chance of being infected. So the foreskin does seem to play a role. Therefore, it is encouraged that all adult males should be circumcised. This has also been taken to KZN because in KZN, as you know, they don't believe in circumcision culturally, as opposed to